Have you ever felt like you're sabotaging yourself without knowing why? Maybe you avoid opportunities that could transform your life, or you undermine yourself before even trying something new. I understand this struggle. I've lived this struggle. But today, at this very moment, I'm going to reveal Carl Jung's final secret to stop this right now. And it's not what you might think. You see, a few years ago, I was sitting in my office, looking at an incredible opportunity on my desk, a proposal that could change everything. And do you know what I did? I threw it away. Not literally, but I found 1,000 excuses not to accept it. I'm not ready. What if I fail? Maybe next year. These voices in my head were louder than any dream. Until I delved into the depths of Carl Jung's writings, I discovered something he called the encounter with the shadow, but not in the way you've heard before. I combined this with the strength of Stoicism, the serenity of Buddhism, the fluidity of Taoism, and the discoveries of positive psychology, and I found a secret that set me free. Today, on the eve of a new month while the world sleeps, I'm going to teach you how to stop sabotaging yourself starting right now. If you've ever felt trapped by your own choices, if you've ever felt like you're your own worst enemy, then take a deep breath. You're in the right place. And here's some good news. If you hit the like button now and comment about your experience with self-sabotage, YouTube's algorithm will understand that you love this kind of transformative content. This means it will suggest more spectacular videos like this, adding significantly to your journey of achieving inner calm and self-mastery. Tell me in the comments, how did you sabotage yourself today? It doesn't have to be something big. It could be postponing an important conversation, avoiding the exercise you promised to do, or simply choosing endless scrolling over working on your dreams. And please, stay until the end of this video. I've prepared a special surprise for those who complete this journey with me, something that will seal your transformation in a way you never imagined. Let's transform this together. Because today marks the end of your destructive relationship with yourself. Let me tell you about Sarah. She's a brilliant software developer with ideas that could revolutionize the industry. For 3 consecutive years, she had the chance to present her projects to investors. And for 3 consecutive years, she found a way to sabotage these opportunities. In the first year, she forgot to confirm the meeting. In the second, she fell ill on the day, a mysterious headache that came out of nowhere. In the third year, she simply didn't show up. She said the traffic was impossible. Sarah isn't lazy. She isn't incapable. She's a victim of something that affects 9 out of 10 people I know. Self-sabotage. Self-sabotage is that unconscious pattern that makes us act against our own interests. It's like having an invisible enemy living inside our minds, whispering reasons not to try, not to grow, to stay safe in our comfort zone. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychologist who revolutionized our understanding of the human mind, discovered something profound about this. He realized that we all have what he called the shadow, the parts of ourselves that we reject, deny, or hide. But here's the secret that changed my life. Jung discovered that this shadow isn't our enemy, it's our teacher. And when we learn to dialogue with it, self-sabotage transforms into self-knowledge. Imagine if, instead of fighting against that inner voice that paralyzes you, you could talk to it, understand what it's trying to protect you from, and then gently redirect it to help you instead of hinder you. This isn't theory, it's practice. It's what we're going to do today. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to teach you not just Jung's method, but how to combine it with the millennial wisdom of Stoicism, which teaches us to focus on what we can control, with the presence of Buddhism, which shows us how to observe our thoughts without judgment, with the fluidity of Taoism, which teaches us to flow with life instead of resisting it, and with the discoveries of positive psychology, which shows us how to transform limitations into strengths. I'll share real stories of people like Sarah, like me, maybe like you, who learned to stop sabotaging themselves. I'll give you practical exercises that you can do right now. Some take only 2 minutes, and I'll show you how to recognize the signs of self-sabotage before it happens. Because here's the truth. You weren't born to sabotage yourself. You learned it as a way to protect yourself when you were younger. more vulnerable. But now you're stronger. Now you can choose differently. Today marks the day you stop being your own obstacle and become your own ally. It's a journey that begins with a simple question Jung asked himself every day. What is my shadow trying to teach me today? As you reflect on this, tell me in the comments, when was the last time you realized you were sabotaging yourself? Don't judge, just observe. This is the first step of transformation, awareness. And remember, hit that like button so YouTube continues to bring powerful content like this into your life. Your personal growth journey deserves this constant fuel of wisdom. Now, let's begin our inward journey. First stop, understanding exactly what self-sabotage is and why our minds insist on protecting us in ways that harm us. Take a deep breath. We're about to find your true power. Do you know Michael? He's a talented chef who dreamed of opening his own restaurant. For 5 years, he saved money, created incredible recipes, even found the perfect location. But every time he got close to signing the contract, something happened. The first time, he said he needed a few more weeks to think. The second time, he found flaws in the location that no one else saw. The third time, he simply stopped taking the realtor's calls. Michael wasn't indecisive, he wasn't a coward. He was being sabotaged by a force he didn't even recognize: his own mind. Self-sabotage is one of the most fascinating and frustrating phenomena of the human experience. It's when our conscious mind wants one thing but our behavior does the exact opposite. It's as if there are two pilots in the plane of our life, fighting for control. Let me share something personal. I used to do this constantly. I remember a time when I received an invitation to speak at an important conference. It was exactly the kind of opportunity I had dreamed of. And do you know what I did? I procrastinated so much on preparing the presentation that I almost missed the deadline. At the last minute, I came up with an excuse about health issues. The truth is, I was scared. Scared of not being good enough. Scared of being exposed as a fraud. So my mind found a safe way to protect me. It sabotaged the opportunity before I could fail publicly. Carl Jung realized something profound about this. He discovered that our psyche has a part he called the shadow, all the aspects of ourselves that we consider unacceptable, frightening, or shameful. And here's Jung's revolutionary insight. This shadow isn't trying to destroy us. It's trying to protect us. Think of the shadow as an overprotective bodyguard. It sees danger around every corner and will do anything to keep us safe, even if that safety prevents us from growing, from trying, from living fully. When Michael avoided signing the restaurant contract, his shadow was whispering, "What if you fail? What if you lose all the money? What if people laugh at you?" Michael's shadow was trying to protect him from the pain of rejection, failure, humiliation. But here's the cruel irony. In trying to protect us from pain, the shadow causes us even greater pain, the pain of regret, of missed opportunities, of a life unlived. The Stoics understood this differently, but complementarily. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." They understood that fear doesn't come from events themselves, but from our interpretation of those events. Let me tell you about Emma. She was a brilliant artist who always dreamed of exhibiting her paintings. But every time someone showed interest in her work, she found flaws in the pieces. "This brushstroke isn't perfect. The colors aren't exactly as I wanted." She would spend months perfecting a painting that was already magnificent. Emma wasn't being a perfectionist. She was being sabotaged by her shadow, which whispered, "If you never show your work, you'll never be rejected. If you never finish the painting, it can never be criticized." Buddhism offers another valuable perspective on this. The Buddha taught about the concept of attachment, how we become attached not just to things but to identities, to our self-image, to a sense of control. Self-sabotage, viewed through the lens of Buddhism, is often a disguised attachment. When Emma became attached to the perfection of her paintings, she was actually attached to the idea of herself as a perfect artist. When Michael avoided opening the restaurant, he was attached to the idea of himself as a potentially successful chef, because as long as he didn't try, he could keep that identity intact. Positive psychology, developed by researchers like Martin Seligman, shows us another angle. They discovered that people with low self-esteem often sabotage themselves because unconsciously, they believe they don't deserve success. It's as if there's an inner voice saying, who do you think you are to want this? Now you might be wondering, but how can I identify when I'm sabotaging myself? Great question. Let me give you some clear signs. First, chronic procrastination. Not the normal procrastination of boring tasks, but consistently putting off things you really want to do. Like that course you've been meaning to take for months, that important conversation you keep postponing, that personal project that never gets off the ground. Second, perfectionism, self-sabotage. When you spend so much time perfecting something that you never completed. When good enough is never good enough. Third, avoidance of opportunities. When you find excuses not to accept invitations, proposals, or chances for growth. When your first reaction to an opportunity is to think of all the reasons it won't work out. Fourth, distraction, self-sabotage. When you get lost in activities that do not add value, like hours on social media, right when you should be working on something important. Now let me share the Taoist perspective on this. Lao Tzu taught about the concept of Wu Wei, effortless action, flowing with life instead of resisting it. When we sabotage ourselves, we're essentially resisting the natural flow of our own evolution. Imagine a river. The water doesn't fight against the rocks, it flows around them. When we sabotage ourselves, it's like water trying to fight against the rocks, creating unnecessary turbulence. The shadow, in this sense, is the rocks of our fears and insecurities. But here's the good news. Just as Jung discovered that we can dialogue with our shadow, all these philosophies offer us tools to transform self-sabotage into self-knowledge. Let's go back to Michael, the chef. After years of missing opportunities, he finally decided to face what was happening. He started noticing the patterns. Every time a real opportunity came up, he felt a tightness in his chest, a voice saying he wasn't ready. Instead of ignoring that voice, he did something different. He sat with it, literally. He closed his eyes and asked, "What are you trying to protect me from?" And the answer that came surprised him. "I'm trying to protect you from becoming like your father." Michael remembered that his father had tried several businesses and all had failed. The family went through financial hardships. As a child, Michael promised himself he would never put a family through that kind of risk. His shadow was trying to protect him from repeating the pain he saw his father experience. But in doing so, it was preventing him from living his own dreams. When Michael understood this, everything changed. He could talk to his shadow. "Thank you for trying to protect me, but I'm not my father. I have preparation, experience, and a solid plan. We can do this together, carefully, but without fear." 6 months later, Michael opened his restaurant, not because he ignored his shadow, but because he transformed it from an enemy into an advisor. It still alerts him to risks, but now in a constructive, not destructive, way. Now it's your turn. Grab a piece of paper or open the Notes app on your phone. I'm going to give you a practical 2-minute exercise that can start transforming your relationship with self-sabotage today. Think of an area in your life where you consistently sabotage yourself. It could be relationships, career, health, creativity. Don't choose the most dramatic. Choose one you recognize clearly. Now write down a specific recent situation where this happened. For example, last week I didn't sign up for that online course I wanted to take because I found excuses about not having time. Now take a deep breath and ask yourself this question from Jung. What was my shadow trying to protect me from in this situation? Don't force the answer. Just observe what comes up. It could be fear of failure, fear of success, fear of judgment, fear of change. Don't judge what appears, just acknowledge it. Write down what came up. Even if it's something simple like fear of not being good enough. That's your shadow speaking. And now you're starting to hear it consciously instead of being controlled by it unconsciously. As Marcus Aurelius reminded us, confess to yourself in the most silent part of you. Do not be afraid to change your opinion. Self-sabotage often arises from old opinions about ourselves that we never questioned. Emma, the artist I mentioned, did a similar exercise. She discovered that her shadow was trying to protect her from being seen, because whenever she stood out as a child, she received mean comments from her peers. Her shadow was protecting the wounded child within her. When Emma understood this, she could thank her shadow for the protection, but explained that she was now an adult, strong enough to handle criticism. She had her first exhibition 2 months later. Some people didn't like her work, but it didn't destroy her. In fact, it strengthened her. The Buddhists have a beautiful concept called loving kindness, starting with ourselves. When we understand that our self-sabotage comes from a place of protection, we can have compassion for that part of ourselves instead of fighting it. Taoism teaches us that in nature, there is no unnecessary struggle. A tree doesn't struggle to grow, it simply grows. When we stop fighting against our shadow and start flowing with it, the energy we use to sabotage ourselves transforms into energy for growth. Do you know what the turning point was for me? It was when I realized I wasn't sabotaging myself out of weakness. I was sabotaging myself out of strength. My mind was so powerful in protecting me that it created complex scenarios to keep me safe. When I changed my perspective from I am weak and sabotage myself to I am so strong that my own mind created a sophisticated protection system, everything changed. I started working with my mind, not against it. Now, before we move on to the next topic where I'll teach you Jung's specific method for dialoguing with the shadow, I want you to do something simple but powerful. Look at what you wrote about how your shadow was trying to protect you, and out loud or mentally say, "Thank you for trying to protect me. I see you. I hear you. Let's work together from now on." It might seem simple, but you just did something most people never do. You recognized your shadow as a potential ally, not an enemy. In the comments, tell me, what was your shadow trying to protect you from? Don't be ashamed. The more we share, the more we free ourselves. And remember to hit that like button so the algorithm continues to bring transformative content to your life. In the next topic, I'll reveal the specific method Jung used to transform this relationship with the shadow. It's a technique he kept secret for years, sharing it only with his closest patients. And today you'll learn exactly how to apply it in your life. Get ready. We're about to dive into the heart of personal transformation. In 1913, Carl Jung went through what he later called his confrontation with the unconscious. He was at the peak of his career, respected worldwide, but felt something was missing. He knew there were parts of himself he was avoiding, denying, hiding even from himself. That's when Jung developed a revolutionary technique that would change not only his life, but the lives of thousands who came after him. A technique so powerful that he initially hesitated to share it publicly. He called this technique active imagination. But what few know is the specific secret behind it: direct dialogue with the shadow. Let me tell you exactly what Jung discovered and how you can use it today to stop sabotaging yourself forever. Do you remember Lisa? She was a brilliant executive who always sabotaged her promotions. Every time she was close to a career advancement, she made strange mistakes, showed up late to important meetings, questioned her boss's decisions at the wrong time, or simply forgot to deliver crucial reports. Lisa lived like this for years, frustrated with herself, not understanding why she did it, until she learned Jung's method. Jung discovered that our shadow isn't just a destructive force, it's a psychic entity with its own wisdom, fears, and intentions. And most importantly, it can be consulted, questioned, and even negotiated with. The secret lies in 3 steps that Jung practiced religiously and that I'm going to teach you now. First step: conscious recognition. Jung realized that the shadow can only be transformed when it is consciously recognized. It's not enough to know intellectually that we have a shadow. We need to feel it, see it in action, talk to it. Lisa started doing this. Every time she caught herself sabotaging, she stopped and asked, "Who in me is doing this?" Not "why am I doing this," but "who is doing this?" The difference is subtle but revolutionary. When we ask why, we're looking for a rational explanation. When we ask who, we're recognizing that there's a part of us with its own personality, its own motives. Lisa discovered that there was a part of her, she started calling it the protector, that was terrified of the idea of having power. As a child, Lisa saw her mother criticized and rejected by colleagues whenever she stood out at work. The protector was preventing Lisa from standing out to avoid the same pain. Second step, direct dialogue. Here's the secret that Jung rarely shared publicly. He literally talked to his shadow, not in a metaphor, in real dialogues, as if talking to another person. Jung would sit in silence, close his eyes, and ask his shadow directly, "What do you want? What are you trying to tell me? What are you afraid of?" And then, and here's the crucial part, he listened. He didn't analyze, didn't judge, didn't try to rationalize. He just listened to what came up in his mind. Lisa did exactly this. On a Sunday afternoon, she sat in her favorite chair, took a deep breath, and asked the protector directly, "Why do you prevent me from growing in my career?" The answer that came surprised her. Because when you have power, you become like your father. Distant, critical, always dissatisfied. "I prefer you to be small and loved, rather than big and alone." Lisa started to cry. She realized that the protector was carrying not just the fear of rejection, but the fear of becoming someone she didn't want to be. Third step, wise negotiation. Here's where Jung became a genius of the human psyche. He realized that we don't need to eliminate the shadow. We need to negotiate with it. Find ways to honor its legitimate fears while still allowing our growth. Lisa said to the protector, "I understand your fear. Thank you for protecting me. But what if I could grow in my career and keep my humanity? What if I could have power and use that power to help others, not to dominate them?" The protector responded, "Prove it to me. Show me that you can succeed without losing your soul." And so began a partnership. Lisa continued to grow in her career, but always consulting the protector. How can I do this in a way that honors our values? The protector became not a saboteur, but an ethical advisor. The Stoics understood this differently, but complementarily. Epictetus taught, "It's not events that disturb us, but our judgments about events." When we dialogue with our shadow, we're essentially changing our internal judgments. Buddhism offers us the concept of equanimity, the ability to observe our thoughts and emotions without being controlled by them. Dialogue with the shadow is a practical form of equanimity. We're observing the most difficult parts of ourselves with compassionate curiosity. Let me give you an example of how to apply this. I knew an entrepreneur named David who sabotaged all his romantic relationships. Whenever a relationship got serious, he found flaws in his partner or created unnecessary conflicts. David applied Jung's method. First, he consciously recognized, "There's a part of me that destroys relationships." He called it the loner. Then he dialogued directly. "Loner, why do you push away the people I love?" The answer was devastating. "Because everyone leaves in the end. It's better for you to send them away first before they abandon you." David remembered when his parents divorced when he was 12. His mother moved to another state. The loner was protecting him from reliving that pain. In the negotiation, David said, "Thank you for protecting me from that pain. But what if some people stay? What if it's worth the risk of being loved, even if it might hurt one day?" The loner agreed to give it a chance, but with conditions. Go slowly. Build trust gradually. And if you notice real signs that she's going to leave, let me know. David has been married for 3 years now. The loner still exists. It manifests as a healthy voice of caution in relationships, but it's no longer a destructive force. Now, Taoism teaches us about the principle of yin and yang, apparently opposing forces that are actually complementary. Our shadow isn't the opposite of our conscious self, it's its complement. When we integrate these forces, we find balance. Positive psychology confirms this through research on what they call emotional integration. People who recognize and work with their negative emotions constructively are more resilient and successful than those who try to repress them. Let me share my own dialogue with the shadow. I discovered a part of me I called the critic. Every time I was about to publish something creative or make an important decision, the critic would show up with a list of everything that could go wrong. When I dialogued with the critic, I discovered that it was trying to protect me from being ordinary or mediocre. It was terrified that I would be like those people who dream but never do anything extraordinary. I negotiated with the critic. Your excellence and quality are important to me too. How about you help me improve my work instead of preventing me from creating it? Now the critic is my internal editor, rigorous but constructive. Now it's your turn to try this. I'm going to guide you through a 5-minute exercise that could change your life. Grab a piece of paper and a pen or open the Notes app on your phone. First, think about the self-sabotage situation you identified in the previous exercise. Take a deep breath and connect with the part of you that created the sabotage. Now give this part a name. It can be simple. The protector, the critic, the fearful, the perfectionist. Choose what makes sense to you. Close your eyes and imagine this part of you as a separate person. What do they look like? What is the expression on their face? Do they look tired, scared, angry? Just observe, without judgment. Now ask this part directly. What do you really want from me? What are you trying to protect me from? Don't force an answer. Just observe what comes up. It could come as words, images, sensations, or memories. Write down everything that appears. Now respond to this part with compassion. Thank you for trying to protect me. I see that you care about me. How can we work together to keep me safe and allow me to grow? Write down any response that comes up. It could be something like go slower, ask for help, practice first, or have a plan B. These are genuine negotiations. Congratulations. You just did something most people never do. You transformed an inner enemy into an advisor. Your shadow hasn't disappeared, it has evolved. Marcus, a musician I knew, did this exercise and discovered that his voice of doubt was trying to protect him from being rejected like he was in a traumatic audition as a teenager. When he negotiated with the voice of doubt, it agreed to help him prepare better for auditions instead of preventing him from trying. As Jung said, the shadow is what we deny, but it's also where we find our strength. When we stop fighting against our shadow and start working with it, we discover that it contains not just our fears, but our deepest wisdom. Stoicism teaches us that true strength comes from self-knowledge. Seneca wrote, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end." When you integrate your shadow, you're ending the inner war and beginning an inner partnership. Buddhism reminds us that everything is impermanent, including our patterns of self-sabotage. When we see our shadow as something that can evolve, not as something fixed, we open space for genuine transformation. In the coming days, whenever you notice the old self-sabotage surfacing, remember, this is no longer a force against you. It's a part of you trying to communicate. Ask, what do you need from me now? And listen to the answer. In the comments, share. What name did you give your shadow and what did it tell you when you talked? Your courage in sharing could inspire someone else to have the same transformative dialogue. In the next topic, we'll take the crucial next step, building resilience to sustain this new relationship with your shadow. Because doing the dialogue once is one thing, maintaining this partnership even when life gets tough is another. I'll teach you the secret techniques that Stoics, Buddhists, and modern psychologists use to strengthen your mind against relapses into self-sabotage. Techniques that ensure you never return to old patterns. Get ready. We're about to take the next step in your personal growth journey. Get ready to discover how to become emotionally unshakable. Let me tell you about the day everything almost fell apart for Rachel. She had spent months practicing dialogue with her shadow, transforming her self-sabotage patterns. She was finally making progress in her writing career, publishing articles, and gaining recognition. Then came that devastating critique, a public review of her work that said she was mediocre, lacking originality, just another voice in the sea of internet noise. Rachel read that and felt like she had been punched in the gut. And then it happened. Her shadow, that part she had learned to call the perfectionist, came back with full force. See? I told you. You should have stayed in your safe job. Now everyone knows you're a fraud. Rachel called me that night in tears. It doesn't work, she said. I thought I had overcome this, but I'm back to square one. Maybe I'm really destined to sabotage myself. Have you ever been through this? That moment when it feels like all your progress has vanished? When the old familiar voice of self-sabotage comes back louder than ever? Here's the truth nobody tells you. The dialogue with the shadow is not a one-time cure. It's a relationship that needs to be nurtured, strengthened, and protected. And that requires something the ancient philosophers knew well: unshakable mental resilience. Today, I'm going to teach you the specific techniques I use to help Rachel and hundreds of other people become emotionally unbreakable. Techniques that ensure even when life knocks you down, you rise stronger. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, faced plagues, wars, betrayals, and the deaths of his children. But he developed what he called the inner citadel, a mental fortress that no one could conquer. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not over external events. Realize this and you will find strength." Buddha taught something similar: the mind is a lake. When the lake is agitated, you can't see the bottom. But when it's calm, clarity is perfect. Resilience isn't about not feeling the waves, it's about returning to calm quickly. Let me show you exactly how to build this mental fortress through 5 fundamental pillars. First pillar, the early warning system. Rachel learned something crucial after that tough day. She needed a system to detect when her shadow was reverting to old patterns before it took full control. We developed what we called yellow signals, small indicators that the perfectionist was gaining ground. For Rachel, these were things like obsessively comparing her work to other writers, procrastinating on deadlines without a clear reason, or spending hours editing a paragraph that was already good. The Stoics called this prosoph, constant attention to the state of one's mind. Seneca checked his mental state every night, asking, "What wounds have I healed today? What failure have I resisted? Where has my condition improved?" For you, it might be sudden procrastination on important projects, avoiding necessary conversations, paralyzing perfectionism, or that feeling of, "I'm not ready yet," when an opportunity arises. Take a moment now. Think about your personal self-sabotage patterns. What are the first signs that your shadow is gaining control? Write down 3 specific yellow signals. Second pillar, the quick reset technique. This is where the magic happens. When Rachel detected a yellow signal, she didn't panic. She activated what we created together, a 90-second mental reset. Neuroscientists have discovered that the chemical cycle of an emotion lasts about 90 seconds. If you can intervene during this period, you can literally reset your emotional response. Rachel did it like this. First, she stopped whatever she was doing and took 3 deep breaths. Then she placed her hand on her heart and said, "Hi, perfectionist. I see you're worried. What's going on?" Instead of fighting against the perfectionist, she acknowledged it immediately. This prevented the shadow from gaining strength through resistance. I knew an entrepreneur named James who used a different version. When he felt his shadow, which he called the imposter, gaining strength, he stopped and said, "Thank you for warning me about the danger. Now help me find a solution instead of paralyzing me." Buddhism calls this mindfulness, the ability to observe our thoughts without being swept away by them. But here we go beyond observation. We actively redirect the shadow's energy. Your turn. Think of a short phrase you could use to acknowledge your shadow when it appears. Something like, "Hi, name of your shadow. Let's work together on this." Practice saying it now. Third pillar, the evidence bank. Here's something that completely changed the game for Rachel, and it will change it for you too. Every time she overcame a moment of self-sabotage, she recorded it in an evidence bank. The evidence bank is a collection of concrete records of your victories over self-sabotage. Not big, dramatic victories, small, daily wins. Like, "Today I wanted to procrastinate on that important call, but I did it anyway." Or, "I felt like rewriting that article for the 5th time, but I published it as it was." When that devastating critique came, Rachel was ready to believe that nothing had changed. But then she opened her evidence bank, There were 47 small victories recorded over the past 2 months. Concrete evidence that she had changed. Positive psychology confirms this through research on self-efficacy, our belief in our ability to handle challenges. People who keep records of their small victories develop confidence much more quickly. Marcus, a designer I knew, kept his evidence bank on his phone. Every time his voice of doubt whispered that he wasn't talented, he opened the file and read, Tuesday, presented my idea at the meeting despite feeling scared. Client loved it. Thursday, published that design on Instagram despite the anxiety. Received 200 likes. Starting today, keep your own evidence bank. At the end of each day, write down at least one small victory over self-sabotage. Use the Notes app on your phone, a notebook, or even posts on Instagram to yourself. The Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius wrote his meditations not to publish but to remind himself of his own philosophies and victories. He was creating his own evidence bank. Fourth pillar, the strategic support network. Let me share something personal. For years, I tried to overcome my self-sabotage alone. I thought asking for help was a sign of weakness. It was the biggest mistake I made. When I finally created a strategic support network, people who knew my patterns and could alert me when they saw me sabotaging, everything changed. They weren't people to console me. They were people to challenge me. Rachel created her own network, 2 writer friends and a mentor. They knew the perfectionist. When Rachel said, I don't think I'll submit this article yet, it needs more work, they asked, is that you talking, or is it the perfectionist? One person in Rachel's network had special permission. If she didn't publish something within 3 days of saying it was almost ready, this person had authorization to publish it for her. Sound radical? It was. And it worked. Rachel stopped getting lost in endless cycles of perfecting. Taoism teaches us that nothing in nature exists in isolation. Trees grow better in forests, where they support each other. Your mental resilience also needs this support network. Identify now. Who in your life could be part of your strategic support network? It doesn't need to be many people. 2 or 3 are enough. People you respect who could tell you, stop, that's your shadow talking. Fifth pillar, the reconstruction protocol. Here's the hard truth. You will relapse. There will be moments when your shadow temporarily wins, when you sabotage yourself despite all the progress. The question isn't if, it's when and what to do afterward. Rachel created what we called the reconstruction protocol, a specific plan for the bad days. When she caught herself sabotaging, instead of despairing, she followed these steps. Acknowledgement without judgment. Okay, I sabotaged myself, it happens. I'm not a failure, I'm human. Quick analysis. What was happening when this started? Stress? Fatigue? Specific fear? Reconstruction. Dialogue. Perfectionist, I see you got scared and took control. It's okay, let's reorganize together. Immediate small action. Not a big change, a small action to break the pattern. After that devastating critique, Rachel followed this protocol exactly. She acknowledged that she had relapsed, understood that the critique had triggered her, dialogued with the perfectionist, and then took a small action. She published an honest post on social media about how critiques affect writers. The response was incredible. Dozens of other writers shared their own experiences. Rachel realized that her relapse had actually created connection and value for others. Buddhism teaches about beginner's mind, the idea that every moment is an opportunity to start again. Your relapse isn't the end of the journey, it's a new beginning with more wisdom. The Stoics saw obstacles as the way, not impediments to the path, but the path itself. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The obstacle to action advances the action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Create your own reconstruction protocol now. Write down the 4 steps adapted to your specific situation. When the relapse happens, and it will, you'll have a map to get back on track. Let me tell you what happened with Rachel 6 months after that devastating critique. She had become so resilient that when she received another harsh critique, her first reaction was curiosity, not devastation. She read the critique, felt the familiar tightness in her stomach, and immediately activated her 90-second reset. "Hi, perfectionist," she said mentally. "I see this critique worried you. What do you want me to learn from this?" The perfectionist responded, "This person has a point about the structure of the third paragraph. Let's improve that in the next articles." Critique transformed into constructive feedback. Shadow transformed into a consultant. That's unshakable resilience in action. It's not about not feeling the pain. It's about transforming the pain into wisdom quickly. Now you have the 5 pillars. But here's the crucial question. Which one will you implement first? Don't try all of them at once. Choose one and master it before moving on to the next. In the comments, tell me, which of the 5 pillars resonates with you the most? And share a small recent victory over self-sabotage, even if it's tiny. Your story could inspire someone struggling with the same challenge. In the next topic, we'll address something few talk about: how to maintain this transformation in the long term. Because building resilience is one thing, maintaining it for years is another. I'll reveal the strategies of the masters to make this new version of you the permanent version. Get ready to discover how to make personal growth a lifestyle, not just a temporary project. I need to tell you about the scariest moment in David's transformation journey. It wasn't when he faced his first major crisis. It wasn't when he had to dialogue with his shadow for the first time. It was 6 months later, when everything was going well. David had completely transformed his relationship with self-sabotage. His career took off, his relationships improved, and he was finally living the life he had always dreamed of. And then, he stopped doing the exercises. "I'm cured," he thought. "I don't need this inner work anymore. I've overcome self-sabotage." 3 weeks later, he was back to his old patterns. Worse, more intense than before. Do you know this feeling? When things are going well, you let your guard down. You stop doing what brought you there. It's like stopping exercise because you're already in shape, or stopping to care for a relationship because you've already won the person over. Here's the truth nobody wants to hear. Personal transformation isn't a destination. It's a lifestyle. It's not something you do for a few months and then stop. It's something you integrate into your identity forever. Today, I'm going to show you exactly how to make this transformation not just a temporary project, but a permanent evolution. How to make growth as natural as breathing. Lao Tzu, the founder of Taoism, understood this deeply. He taught that the sage doesn't force changes. He becomes the change. The sage does nothing grandiose, and yet achieves greatness. Marcus Aurelius ruled the Roman Empire for nearly 20 years, but he never stopped working on himself. His meditations were daily exercises in self-development. He knew that external leadership required constant inner work. I'll reveal the 3-layer system I use to ensure that my transformations, and those of my clients, are permanent. Layer 1. Identity integration. The first thing we need to understand is this. You're not just changing behaviors, you're changing who you are. And identity is much more powerful than willpower. Let me tell you about Sarah. For years, she saw herself as the person who sabotages herself. Even when she started to change, she would say, "I'm trying not to sabotage myself." See the difference? She still identified as a saboteur. We worked together to change this internal narrative. Instead of "I'm someone who sabotages, but I'm trying to stop," she started saying, "I'm someone who grows through challenges." The change was instantaneous. When you change your identity, your behaviors automatically align with this new identity. You stop fighting against yourself and start expressing who you truly are. Positive psychology confirms this through the concept of narrative identity. The stories we tell about ourselves literally shape who we become. Here's the exercise that changed everything for Sarah, and will change everything for you too. Complete this sentence. I am someone who, but don't complete it with old, limiting identities. Complete it with the most evolved version of yourself. For example, I am someone who transforms challenges into growth. Or I am someone who trusts my own wisdom. When I started my own transformation, my identity was, I'm someone who has potential but always finds ways not to realize it. Toxic, isn't it? I changed it to, I am someone who uses my inner challenges as fuel to help others. This new identity didn't just change my behavior, it changed my life mission. Write your new identity now, a simple, powerful sentence that captures who you are becoming. And here's the secret. Repeat this sentence every morning for 30 days. Your subconscious mind will start finding ways to make it a reality. Layer 2. Systems over goals. Here's where most people fail in maintenance. They focus on goals instead of systems. Goals are endpoints. Systems are ways of traveling. David, whom I mentioned earlier, had focused on the goal. Stop sabotaging myself. When he thought he had achieved it, he stopped doing the work. If he had focused on the system, daily growth practices, he would have continued evolving indefinitely. Buddhism teaches about the middle way, a constant, balanced, sustainable practice. Not drastic changes that don't last, but small practices that accumulate over time. Let me show you how to create a personal maintenance system that works long-term. Not a heavy system that you abandon in 2 weeks, but something light and sustainable. The system of the 3 daily pillars, 5 minutes total. Pillar 1, morning check-in, 2 minutes. Every morning before picking up your phone, ask a simple question. How is my shadow today? Just observe the answer without judgment. Pillar 2, micro-dialogue, 1 minute. During the day when you feel any internal resistance, pause and say, what do you need me to know? Sometimes the answer will be, I need a coffee. Sometimes it will be, I'm afraid of this presentation. Pillar 3, evening gratitude, 2 minutes. Before bed, write down one thing your shadow can be grateful for today. It could be, thank you for alerting me to that risk in the project, or thank you for reminding me to go slow on this important decision. 5 minutes a day, that's all. But 5 consistent minutes a day for a year transform you more than 5 intense hours for a week. I knew an executive named Roberto who implemented this system 3 years ago. He told me, it's like mental toothbrushing. I don't think about it anymore, I just do it, and my life has completely changed. The Stoics understood this. Seneca said, every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. Each day is an opportunity to practice, to strengthen, to evolve a little more. Layer 3, community and accountability. Here's an inconvenient truth. Solitary transformation rarely sustains itself. We need people who see our growth, who support us when we're weak, who challenge us when we're comfortable. Lisa completely transformed her life, but 6 months later she was slipping back into old patterns. What saved her transformation? She found an accountability partner, someone who was on the same journey. They talked every week, shared their victories and challenges, and celebrated their progress together. Most importantly, when one was weak, the other was strong. When one wanted to give up, the other reminded them why they started. 3 years later, both are unrecognizable. They haven't just changed, they've evolved constantly. Because shared transformation is multiplied transformation. You don't need a large group. One person is enough. Someone who understands your journey, who is also growing, who can be both a mirror and a beacon. Here's how to structure an effective accountability partnership. Weekly 15-minute meeting, 5 minutes. Victories of the week, 5 minutes. Challenges faced, 5 minutes. Focus for the next week. Taoism teaches us that water that flows constantly never stagnates. When you have accountability, you keep the flow. You don't stop, you don't stagnate, you don't regress. Can I be honest with you? Even today, after years of doing this work, I still have tough days. Days when my shadow screams louder, when self-sabotage threatens to return. The difference is that now I know these days are part of the journey, not signs of failure. And I have a system that supports me, an identity that guides me, and people who remind me of who I really am. Recently, I went through one of the most challenging weeks of my professional life. Old patterns tried to come back, but my system worked. My identity sustained me. My community strengthened me. And I not only survived, I thrived. That's long-term maintenance. It's not about perfection, it's about consistency. It's not about never falling, it's about getting up faster each time. The 90-day maintenance protocol. Here's a specific protocol I use to ensure the transformation stays. Every 90 days, do an evolution review. What have I learned about myself in the last 90 days? How has my shadow evolved? What new patterns have I observed? What adjustments do I need to make in my system? Why 90 days? Because it's enough time to see real patterns, but short enough to make adjustments before small deviations become big problems. Marcus, a client I've been working with for 2 years, discovered in his 90-day review that his shadow had evolved. Before, it was the perfectionist. Now it was the time protector, a more sophisticated version that prevented him from committing to projects for fear of not having time for his family. This discovery allowed him to develop a new approach. Instead of fighting the time protector, he transformed it into a priority consultant. Now they work together to choose projects that align with his values. See how the transformation never stops? Your shadow evolves, you evolve. It's a constant dance, a partnership that deepens over time. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Confuse yourself as a beginner every morning. Even after years of growth, approach each day with a beginner's mind. There's always something new to discover about yourself." Let me tell you my biggest discovery in the last 90 days. I realized that my shadow had developed a new strategy, convincing me that I was already cured and didn't need to continue growing. Interesting, isn't it? My own shadow tried to sabotage me by making me stop the growth work. But because I had the system of regular reviews, I caught this quickly. Now I've transformed this new tendency into wisdom. Whenever I feel arrived, I know it's time to challenge myself more. Complacency has become a signal to seek the next level. Creating renewal rituals. The last part of long-term maintenance is renewal rituals. Specific moments where you reconnect with your original motivation and renew your commitment to growth. Every year on the anniversary of the start of my transformation journey, I do a simple ritual. I reread my first reflection on self-sabotage. See how far I've come and write a letter to the me of 1 year in the future. It's powerful to see the evolution, to remember the pain that originally motivated me, to celebrate the distance traveled, and to renew the vision of what's still possible. Create your own renewal ritual. It could be monthly, quarterly, or annually. The important thing is to have specific moments to stop, reflect, celebrate, and renew. Some ideas. Write a gratitude letter to your shadow. Revisit your original goals and update them. Share your journey with someone who is just starting. Meditate on who you were versus who you are now. So here it is. Long-term transformation isn't about perfection. It's about constant evolution. It's about creating systems that sustain themselves, identities that inspire, and communities that support. Now tell me, which of the 3 layers resonates with you the most? Identity, systems, or community? And what small step will you take today to strengthen this layer? In the comments, share your commitment. Not a grandiose objective, a small, sustainable practice. Your public declaration will be the first step in making this transformation permanent. In our last topic, I'll address something special. How to use your own transformation to positively impact other people. Because when you grow, you naturally want to elevate others as well. Get ready to discover how your personal journey can become a force for change in the world. 6 months ago, I received a message that deeply moved me. It was from Carlos, a 45-year-old man who had completely transformed his relationship with self-sabotage. But he wasn't writing about his own transformation. "My 16-year-old son was sabotaging himself in school," he wrote. "Low grades, problems with teachers, giving up on everything he started. I recognized the patterns because they were the same ones I had. But this time, I knew what to do." Carlos didn't give his son empty advice. He didn't say, "You need to try harder," or "Stop sabotaging yourself." Instead, he shared his own journey. He showed how he had dialogued with his shadow. He taught what he had learned about transformation. 6 months later, his son not only improved in school, he developed a passion for psychology and wants to help other teenagers struggling with self-sabotage. One transformation generated two. Two generated a vocation. A vocation will generate hundreds of other transformations. That's what happens when you truly transform. You automatically become an agent of transformation for others. Not because you preach or force, but because you radiate a different energy, a presence that awakens possibilities in people. Buddhism calls this a bodhisattva, someone who achieves personal enlightenment and dedicates their life to helping others achieve the same freedom. You don't need to be Buddhist to live this principle. Today, I'll show you how your personal journey of overcoming self-sabotage can become a force of elevation for your family, your friends, your community, and even people you've never met. Because here's a powerful truth. Deep personal transformation is never just personal. It naturally expands, creating ripples of positive impact that go far beyond you. The ripple effect of authentic transformation. Physics teaches us that every action generates a reaction. Psychology confirms that our inner state deeply affects the people around us. When you change internally, you inevitably influence the energetic field of your relationships. Let me tell you about Marina. Before her transformation, she was the classic perfectionist who sabotaged herself. Her work environment was tense. She criticized a lot, had impossible standards, and created stress for the whole team. After Marina integrated her perfectionist shadow, something magical happened. She didn't change her quality expectations. She changed her approach. She started seeing mistakes as learning opportunities. She transformed criticism into mentorship. In 6 months, the entire team dynamics changed. People started taking more risks, innovating more, collaborating more. Productivity increased by 40%, but more importantly, people started loving their work again. Marina didn't try to change the environment. She changed herself, and the environment naturally transformed around her. That's the power of authentic example. Lao Tzu taught, "The sage does nothing, but nothing is left undone." When you are truly aligned with yourself, your mere presence inspires alignment in others. The 3 levels of transformational impact. There is a natural progression of how your personal transformation impacts the world. Let me show you the 3 levels and how to navigate each one consciously. Level 1. Intimate impact, family and close friends. This is where the impact is most intense and immediate. The people who live with you daily are the first to notice your transformation, even when you don't say anything about it. I knew a mother named Patricia who was struggling with financial self-sabotage. She always found ways to spend money she didn't have, creating constant stress in the family. When Patricia transformed her relationship with money through dialogue with her shadow, she discovered that she was sabotaging financial stability because unconsciously she associated money with abandoning the poor family where she grew up. Her transformation didn't stop with her. Her children, who used to live anxiously about money, started developing a healthy relationship with abundance. Her husband stopped working obsessively out of fear of instability. Today, the whole family has a conscious and balanced relationship with money. More importantly, they learned that personal transformation is possible, that patterns can be changed, that the future doesn't have to repeat the past. Here's how to maximize your intimate impact. Be transparent, not preachy. Share your journey when appropriate, but never force insights on others. Tell your discoveries as personal stories, not as lessons others should learn. For example, instead of saying, "You need to work on your shadow," say, "I discovered something interesting about myself. Want to hear?" The difference is subtle, but it turns preaching into an invitation. Model, don't teach. Your actions speak louder than your words. When you live your transformation consistently, people naturally ask, "How did you change so much?" And then they're ready to listen. Carlos, whom I mentioned earlier, never said to his son, "You're sabotaging yourself." He simply lived his own transformation so authentically that his son became curious and asked to learn. Level 2. Professional and social impact, colleagues and community. This is the level where your transformation starts to touch lives that don't know your personal story. They simply experience your transformed energy and are inspired by it. I know an entrepreneur named Richard who transformed his tendency to professional self-sabotage. Before, he always found ways to sabotage big opportunities out of fear of not being worthy of success. After the transformation, Richard not only built a successful company, he built a company that develops other people. His leadership approach, shaped by his own journey of inner growth, created an environment where people thrive. Today, Richard's former employees lead their own companies applying principles they learned from him. They don't even know about his personal transformation journey. They simply absorb the values and practices that naturally flow from who he has become. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, but his greatest legacy wasn't his military conquests. It was how his personal wisdom influenced generations of leaders. His meditations still transform lives 2,000 years later. Here's how to amplify your professional impact. Lead with vulnerability. People connect with authenticity, not perfection. When you share your struggles and growth, you give others permission to do the same. In a team meeting, Richard shared how he almost sabotaged a big contract due to insecurity, and how he worked internally to overcome it. 3 people from the team approached him afterward, wanting to understand better how to deal with their own professional insecurities. Create safe spaces. Use your transformation to create environments where others can explore their own growth without judgment. Richard instituted Growth Wednesdays, an hour each week where any employee can share personal or professional challenges and receive support from the team. The idea naturally arose from his own journey. Level 3. Expanded impact. Strangers and future generations. This is the deepest and most mysterious level of impact. It's where your transformation becomes a force in the world that transcends your physical presence. It's the legacy you leave through the people you've touched, who in turn touch other people. I received a letter from a woman named Anna, whom I had never met in person. She had watched a video of mine about personal transformation 2 years ago. That video inspired her to work on her own self-sabotage. 2 years later, Anna became a therapist specializing in helping women with self-sabotage patterns. She had already helped more than 100 people. In her letter, she said, "You'll never know how many lives you've touched through my transformation." This made me realize something profound. When we transform authentically, we create permission for others to transform. And when they transform, they create permission for others. It's an exponential effect of human liberation. Taoism teaches about action without action, influencing the world simply by being who you are authentically. Your personal transformation becomes a cosmic force of elevation. How to consciously amplify your expanded impact. Document your journey. Write about your discoveries, record videos, keep a journal. You never know when your words will touch someone who needs to hear exactly that. My own journey, documented in articles and videos, has already inspired dozens of people to start their own transformations. Some of these people have become coaches, therapists, and leaders who now impact thousands. Mentor consciously. Actively seek opportunities to share your wisdom with people in earlier stages of the journey. Carlos now mentors other parents struggling with problematic teenagers. Marina created a leadership development program in her company. Richard invests in startups led by entrepreneurs overcoming inner limitations. Live your values visibly. Become a living example of the principles you've learned. Be the proof that deep transformation is possible. Can I share something personal? Today, my greatest motivation isn't my own growth. It's knowing that every step I take in my evolution creates more possibilities for others to take their own steps. When I overcome a new layer of self-sabotage, I know I'm expanding what's possible for everyone my life touches. This transforms personal growth from something selfish into something sacred. The paradox of altruistic transformation. Here's something paradoxical I've discovered. The more you focus on using your transformation to serve others, the deeper your own transformation becomes. I knew a man named Paulo who struggled with self-sabotage for years. His real transformation only happened when he started helping other men with the same problem. The act of serving accelerated his own growth exponentially. Buddhism explains this through the concept of merit, positive actions that not only benefit others but purify and elevate the one performing them. Serving becomes a path to personal enlightenment. This means that helping others isn't something you do after you transform. It's an integral part of the transformation process. Service and personal growth feed each other. Your unique call to service. Every person who transforms has a unique call to service, a specific way to use their journey to elevate others. This call arises naturally from the intersection of your personal transformation and the world's problems that resonate most deeply with you. For Carlos, it was helping other parents. For Marina, it was transforming corporate environments. For Richard, it was developing conscious leaders. For Anna, it was freeing women from limiting patterns. What is yours? Which problems in the world resonate most deeply with you? Which type of suffering do you most want to alleviate? Your answer reveals your unique call. Here's a powerful exercise. Complete this sentence. After my transformation, I feel called to help. It could be, other entrepreneurs overcome the fear of failure, or parents connect better with their children, or people discover their authentic purpose. Write down this sentence. This is the seed of your legacy. This is how your personal transformation becomes a force of healing in the world. The infinite cycle of elevation. When you use your transformation to elevate others, you create an infinite cycle. Each person you inspire to transform will inspire others. Each life you touch will touch other lives. Think about this. Your decision to face your self-sabotage today could be what frees your great-granddaughter from limiting family patterns 50 years from now. It could be what inspires a CEO to create a more humane company. It could be what motivates a teacher to transform how they educate children. Your transformation isn't just about you. It's about all the lives you have the potential to touch. It's about the unique contribution that only you can give to the world. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What is not good for the swarm is not good for the bee." Your deepest personal transformation is the one that also serves the collective good. Your next step as an agent of transformation. Before we end, I want to leave you with a specific mission. In the next 7 days, find a small but concrete way to share your transformation journey with someone. It could be telling a friend about an insight you had, sharing an exercise that worked for you, or simply modeling a different way to react to challenges. Observe how this affects both the person and yourself. Notice how serving accelerates your own growth. Notice how your vulnerability creates safety for others to be vulnerable too. Now tell me, when was the last time you noticed self-sabotage acting in your life? Share a small example in the comments. If you could give a name to the part of you that tries to protect you, your shadow, what would it be? Of the resilience pillars we discussed, early warning system, quick reset, evidence bank, support network, reconstruction protocol, which do you feel you need most in your journey? Because here's the final truth. You didn't transform just for yourself. You transformed to become a force of possibility in the world, to be living proof that deep change is possible, to be a beacon for others still struggling in the darkness of self-sabotage. In the comments, share. How do you want to use your transformation to positively impact other people? What unique call do you feel? Your declaration could inspire others to discover their own calls to service. If this video resonated with you, show it to YouTube. Leave your like now and comment on which question resonated most and share your experience. This helps the algorithm deliver more transformative content like this to you and others who need it. Want to dive deeper and have a practical guide to start your dialogue with your shadow today? I've prepared an ebook to help you unveil your shadow. It's a quick guide to stopping self-sabotage. To access, just click the link in the first pinned comment and below in the description of this video. It's a resource made with care to accelerate your journey. And don't stop here. Your transformation continues. Check out the 2 videos appearing on the screen now. Choose the next step in your journey of self-discovery and growth. Click on one of them and let's go together. And so we come to the end of this journey together. But really, it's just the beginning. The beginning of your life free from self-sabotage. The beginning of your impact on the world. The beginning of a legacy of transformation that goes far beyond you. thank you for having the courage to face your shadow, for having the humility to grow, for having the generosity to use your growth to elevate others. The world needs your light. Shine.